Good evening, everyone. You're in the spotlight with Brian Gardner for this Tuesday, October the 11th, 2016. Good to have you all here for our first of 3 shows this week. Apologize for the late start. It seems like we do this more often than not, having technical problems, but we did have a few. But here we are on the air. Before we get going, I mentioned this a couple times last week, but I'm going to mention it here again tonight. Obviously, there was a tremendous, I won't say tremendous, but a horrific is a better term. Horrific hurricane over the weekend. Obviously, it affected Haiti last week, and it was a horrible loss of life there. And obviously, there was some loss of life here as well, and there's flooding in North Carolina, and just all kinds of things going on. So first off, because again, and I say this all the time, but it's true, and it has to be said. This is more important than anything we're going to talk about here on this show or any show we ever, do. Sports, wrestling, none of it matters compared to this. This is horrific. We obviously want to express our thoughts, prayers, and condolences to all those that have been impacted by this horrific hurricane. To those that passed away, may they rest in peace. And again, our thoughts, prayers, and condolences to their family, friends, and loved ones, and to all those involved and impacted by this horrific hurricane. Our hearts and prayers and thoughts go out to you during this time. And again, to those that are still dealing with after effects of this flooding and anything else, please be safe, please be careful, and our thoughts go out to you. This is a horrific situation, and and hopefully everything, it's just horrific, and our thoughts are with you during this time. So I wanted to make sure we mentioned that here off the top of the show here tonight. Here we are, first of 3 shows this week. There is a change to the schedule. We'll talk about that in just a bit, but as always, want to remind you all the ways which you can interact and contribute to our show. Have your voice heard by emailing us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Please remember to use the hashtags, hashtag itspotlight411. We don't do hashtag ITS5 anymore. Our anniversary week was last week. I'll talk more about that in a moment. So no more ITS5. That one's gone. But you can create your own hashtag if you want, as long as it's not disrespectful or insulting. So depending on what we're talking about, you can maybe use hashtag ITS Wrestling, hashtag ITS Football, whatever the case you wanted, whatever you wanted to use, go ahead and use as long as it's not disrespectful or insulting. Also, we also have Facebook. You can search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook. Make sure you like our page upon finding it. All right, so that's all out of the way. Really quickly, schedule update for this week. Obviously, we're on the air tonight. Hi, how you doing? We'll be on the air Thursday for a primetime show, normal time, 9 o'clock PM Eastern time. I'll talk more about what's going to be going on in that show in a moment. Football Blitz on Friday is going to be moved to Thursday. We are going to be doing the football show on Thursday this week. I will be unable to do it Friday afternoon, so because of that, I'm going to be moving it to Thursday, which I'm starting to think I might end up doing that anyway because it's easier. Friday's just too hard. But we'll see. But for this week anyway, it will be on Thursday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time this Thursday, the In the Spotlight Football Blitz. You all know what we do on that show. We look back at the previous week in college football and the NFL, look ahead to the upcoming week. We'll be doing all that. And this time we get to actually preview Thursday football before it happens. So that's actually a benefit. So we'll do all that on the Thursday In the Spotlight Football Blitz. Again, In the Spotlight Football Blitz this Thursday, not Friday, Thursday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, which means we're going to have 2 shows on Thursday Football Blitz in the afternoon and regular primetime show on Thursday night at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. So keep that all in mind here as let's make this alteration as Justin makes a brief appearance with his back turned to the camera. Very awkward podcasting, Justin. Very awkward. What the hell? Okay. All right. So now I want to get that out of the way because we have my co-host is back with us after being off last week. Mike is very much in the spotlight.
I am still very much exhausted, though.
Oh, very well. I didn't make you. You could have. I did not go.
I know. Brian, shut up, Brian. Shut up. I made the choice to join the show tonight. I am just saying, tired. It has been a long couple weeks.
It has.
Hopefully, will catch up on my sleep. For listening to you talk. So.
Oh, you were missed. You were missed.
Because you needed some dynamic on the show.
Well, you only technically missed one film, so.
I missed 3.
Theoretically. Wow, we're using big words tonight. I do want to mention something important. I meant to tell you this over the weekend. I did not get the chance to do it. I didn't go into details. I did mention that you were off for a reason, that you're going through a hard time. So, many of our fans sent us some lovely thoughts and prayers for you. And so I do want to acknowledge that. We got quite a bit of that. So a lot of people were concerned about you. So you are very well liked. Just know that. And I'm saying that in all seriousness. I'm not trying to be a douche about that. That's the truth. So there was a lot of love from Mike last week. So I just want to acknowledge that and thank our fans for sending. I'm going to have to go through them and show Mike some of these, because some of these people were quite creative in their thoughts. And clearly some people were serious about it and said, let them know we're thinking of them. And then there was people that tried to make you laugh and apparently know your sense of humor at this point and decided to try to make you laugh. And there were some good ones. I got to go through them and get those out to you, because they're really amusing.
Yes. I look forward to seeing all the ways you told me to go F myself. I'm really much looking forward to
that. Nobody really did.
Business, thank you. That would be lovely. I appreciate it.
Apparently there were several Purse of Interest things and Sherlock things and stuff like that. So it was nice. It was nice.
Twilight.
Yeah. So all right. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Now, Thursday's show. Interesting show we got on Thursday. We will do our usual entertainment stuff. As my wife hand palms the camera. Well, everybody's making cameos tonight. All right. So I just lost my train of thought now. Wow. That's what happens when people interfere. Okay. So this Thursday, our usual entertainment stuff, box office beat, we'll bring back the fall TV report, TV highlights, all that stuff on Thursday. Obviously, last week we had an anniversary. We didn't really recognize it, and I look, like I said last week, even if we hadn't canceled Tuesday's show and didn't have delays and everything else, even if it didn't happen like that, out of respect for Mike, I wasn't going to do anything. So that wasn't going to happen last week anyway. So we will do a little bit of something on Thursday. We're not going to do a big deal because, look, it's number 6. It's not 5. It's not 10. It's not 20. It's not 25. So we'll do a little something. I have something in plan. You have to tune in on Thursday to see what it is. I might have a surprise or two. We'll see. Depends if I can work it out. I don't want to go into details. Some of you might have tried to guess it. The keyword is try. You came close. You might have failed. Maybe. I don't know. That's a tease. There's only like 3 people got to know what the hell I just said, but that's okay. Anyway, you'll see on Thursday what that's going to entail. So that's the lay of the land for this week. As for next week, I'm not going to go into next week until we get to Thursday because there's a couple of things I might change up a little bit. We'll see. But more on that as the week goes on. All right, so with that all being said, what's on the agenda for tonight? Baseball. We got baseball playoffs. Unfortunately, these playoffs have not turned into anything special because all these series are kind of, or let's do on the NL side of things, are kind of without drama so far. But, we'll talk about them. And other things pertaining to them. We'll also give you some updates on tonight's baseball playoff games going on. We have our first NBA story of the new season. because there's some things going on with Kevin Durant, which should
Does that have something to do with Draymond Green's penis?
no, it does not.
I am disappointed.
It's sad that I thought you might go there. It really is. A lot of people went there, but that's okay. Anyway, there is a Kevin Durant thing, a story we're going to talk about.
Brian, follow-up question.
Sure.
How would you know so many people went to Draymond Green's penis?
That's not what I meant. I meant that a lot of people went there with the joke that you told. That's what I mean. I don't mean that. Not you have to put images in my head. Seriously?
Yes.
That is beyond freaking creepy. You should not do that. I don't pay cats royalty pay. I don't do that.
It's the month of Halloween.
Do they have?
It's the black cat.
Do they have agents?
Cats automatically increase.
Oh, we got both of them now. Oh wow.
Thank you.
This is fascinating.
Mine's way cuter. Hello, he's a big guy.
Finn's just like, what in the world is going on? Like, okay, I can't help you, buddy. You're out of luck. Mike finds this amusing because I am really uncomfortable right now. That's why he's finding this amusing. That's not fair.
Yeah, well, yeah. Also, there are cats in the picture, and I do appreciate.
Do not touch my hair.
It's more uncomfortable for you.
His hair.
Okay. All right. Wow. Tons of. Okay. All right. You know, if the acting union's not going to be happy about this. It's okay. All right.
Brian, you're a terrible actor.
I am. My hair is not a mess. It's not a mess. It's not. But it's okay. You guys don't know what you're talking about. All right. Anyway, back on track. Wow. Lots of derailment. All right. So, we will talk about this Kevin Durant story. That's the only sports stuff we got on tap for tonight. Wrestling, we got some things. I promised you a little bit on the WWE TNA stuff. I put it off from last week. We'll do that tonight. We're going to talk about No Mercy. That won't take long. If you manage to stay awake for it. We'll talk about that. And we'll also talk about last night's Monday Night Raw. And that will be it. That'll be the show. So we're going to move pretty quickly because, like I said, a lot of these things don't require a lot of discussion. I just realized I didn't post the social media links. I'm an idiot. Woohoo. So, let's see. Okay, so we'll go. Okay, so we'll start with baseball. Now, obviously, we have two. You're going to hear an echo in about 5 seconds. Please do not panic because something is off on my screen here. So no worries. Okay. Here you go. All right. Put that. Okay. There we go. All right. So sorry about that. You didn't hear an echo, thankfully. So that's good. All right. So we'll start off with the baseball playoffs, and I'm going to give you a score update right now. I believe the Dodgers were winning. I think they might have won. I don't know because I wasn't here at home for the rest of the game. It's on my DVR. So we're going to see what happened here. Here we go. We have. Come on. It's running really slow tonight. Yes. Dodgers won 6-5 over the Nationals. That series is now tied at 2 games apiece. Bottom of the third between the Cubs and Giants in a big game 4 in a series where the Cubs lead 2-1. It is tied at 1-1 with 1 out in the going to the top of the 4th. Still 1-1. So there's a real update for you there. So that is a monumental game 4. We'll talk more about that. I want to close out the AL series first. Which were both sweeps on the part of Toronto and Cleveland. Look, on the Toronto side of things, I told you all last week, I thought that if Toronto – look, I thought Texas would get at least a game, all right? But here's the problem with Texas, and they never realize this, and they think they can just homer their way into a series win. They've done that. They did that under Ron Washington. But you know what? That ain't going to work. Here's the thing. Toronto actually does have fairly decent pitching to go along with their offense. Toronto can answer you offensively. All right? And they're better pitching. So here's the thing. Toronto negates Texas's biggest strength. And they have the pitching, which Texas doesn't have. So that's where Toronto is actually the better team. And ultimately that's what decided the series was the pitching. They were able to shut Texas down while Texas couldn't shut Toronto down. And they had a chance in that game 3 in Toronto, and Toronto just found a way. Toronto's the better team. Toronto came out. Toronto dominated. It's as simple as that. It was a mismatch from day one. Obviously, there was a lot made about the rivalry and, oh, my gosh, Toronto and Texas, they're going to destroy each other, da-da-da-da. That did not happen because it all happened on the field. Yeah, there was some tension at times, yeah, but nothing ever blew up. Nothing ever got to the point of a brawl. It was just simple as, Toronto went out there and dominated. And that's what you want to do. So, it can't always be a brawl. You want to dominate them on the scoreboard, and that's what Toronto did. Toronto was the better team, and they showed it. And realistically, Toronto was probably the best team in the AL East all year anyway. It's just that they had a couple of bad streaks, and that took them out of the mix. You look at their pitching and their offense. They have their lineup could equal anybody's in the league. And pitching-wise, they had the best rotation depth. They had at least 3 starters that could go and shut down any team out there. And the thing is, I think Toronto actually got better without David Price. Remember, David Price put them in hole. David Price didn't pitch well. David Price still doesn't pitch well in the playoffs. So I think that when you look at this, Toronto's rotation with the younger guys, with Stroman, with Sanchez, is a better rotation now. And they showed it in this series. So Toronto dominated. They dominated the pitching. They shut down the Rangers. Offensively, they equaled Texas. And then the pitching kept them limited. And that's what ultimately decided the series. The better team won the series and showed that. That's all you can really say about it. So Toronto moves on. Texas has a very disappointing. And the other thing I will say, too, about Texas, in addition to not having the pitching, which was my biggest concern with them anyways, they never got challenged. Seattle was inconsistent. Anaheim was bad. Oakland was bad. There was no challenge. Houston was up there, but Houston was inconsistent. So, again, it's a case of the better team, the team that got challenged every night, won. Or got challenged the most this season, won. So Toronto moves on, and then you got what I think is a true surprise, because if you look at where the Red Sox were a month ago, they went on the streak, they went on an 11-game winning streak, took out the AL East, won the AL East, and just didn't even make it a race. After being a little streaky during the majority of the year, and then you go into these playoffs thinking, wow, Boston, wow, and you just think that's going to be an easy pick. They got realistically, a lot of people thought they had the best lineup, better than Toronto, and to an extent, I think they have a little more versatility than Toronto, especially with some of these younger guys, some of these guys that can do better on the base paths, and I do think they maybe have a little more dynamic qualities to them. That might be the difference, the fundamental difference, but nonetheless. We all looked at Boston and thought, this is a team that really, at the very least, would probably go at least the ALCS to meet Toronto. Now, here's the thing, though. They were playing a team in Cleveland who, when you look back, go all the way back to the All-Star break, everybody thought it was going to be Cleveland and Chicago in the World Series. Cleveland was far and away the best team in the AL East. They had the best rotation. They had the best pitching. They had the best bullpen. And they add Andrew Miller to it. That just adds to it. And offensively, they had enough. They had enough that you could get by with it. So you looked at Cleveland and thought, they were the best team, and then it just they kind of went through a little period, and they got challenged by the Tigers, and they kind of fell off a little bit, and everybody started going, oh well, maybe not Cleveland. Well, Cleveland returned to form in this series. They absolutely returned to form. Obviously, Corey Kluber's been hurt. He came back in this series, pitched very well. Obviously, a lot of people jumped off of the Cleveland bandwagon because of the loss of Carrasco. That didn't seem to matter in this series. Will it matter in the ALCS? We don't know. Ultimately, Cleveland's pitching shut down the Red Sox. And one of the hottest lineups in baseball, they shut them down. And really what we've seen in this first round in the AL, which in all places the AL, you would never expect to see it, but we've seen it, was good pitching can shut down good hitting. You saw Toronto shut down Texas, whereas Texas could not shut down Toronto. And you saw Cleveland shut down Boston, where Boston couldn't shut down Cleveland. And we talked about it. Texas didn't have a good starting rotation. Bullpen, yeah. Boston did not have a good starting rotation. Rick Porcello, if Rick Porcello is your ace, and he had a great year. But here's the thing about Rick Porcello. He if you look at his career, he's never had a year like this. At some point, you think the law of averages. And, outside of that, though, what do you got? David Price crapped the bed again in the playoffs, and he's showing that, and he can say all he wants, that eventually it's going to come. It's not going to come, folks. He's how many years into his career? He's had plenty of opportunities in the playoffs, and even in the regular season in big games, he craps the bed. At what point do you realize David Price is not a good big game pitcher? And that's not an ace. That's a 3. That's a 3 or a 4. That's a guy you send out in a game 2, game 3 or 4, and just hope you get 7 innings out of him and keeps you in the game. That's really unbelievable considering the talent of David Price, but that's what he's shown himself to be in big games. In the playoffs, David Price is a 3. During the majority of the regular season, if it's not a big game, he could be a 1. But that's not a true 1. And he's shown that. So Red Sox did not have the rotation. Cleveland did. Pitching ruled the day in the ALDS this year. And now you have two teams in Cleveland and Toronto that I think is a fascinating matchup. Very evenly matched. They both have the same amount as far as depth in the rotation. I think they got about the same amount. Bullpen-wise, I think Cleveland has the edge a little bit, especially with Miller. I think they have the edge a little bit. I think that's the one area they have the edge in, Cleveland. Rotation-wise, I think they equal each other out. Toronto, I think, has the edge as far as the lineup goes. I think they got a better lineup than Cleveland. We'll see who wins out. I think it's going to be a great series. I think it's going to go 7 games. I think it's going to be a great series. I really do. And to me, this series is all about Corey Kluber. If Corey Kluber pitches the way he did in Game 2 against the Red Sox, then I think that the Cleveland Indians will probably win this series, because as good as Toronto is in their rotation, okay, and as good as their depth is, they do not have a true ace. Cleveland does in Kluber. They do have an ace in Kluber. So that's huge, because Kluber can pitch twice in this series. It's just a matter of coming up with 2 more wins if Kluber does his job in this series, assuming you win those 2 games. So that's huge. And I think Cleveland having home field is huge. I think Cleveland will win, because I think for the majority of this season they were the better team. And I think pitching does seem to equal out. Like, we've seen pitching being the big thing, especially starting pitching. I think Andrew Miller is a huge X factor in this series. I give the edge to Cleveland here. I think Cleveland wins it in 7. But we'll see. Toronto's going to be a huge challenge for the Indians. On the NL side of things, the Nationals and Dodgers, that's got to be – I know the series is tied at 2, but it's got to be the most boring 2-2 series I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I like both teams, but, man, together they just don't have any drama. I mean, you've had some good games back and forth. Obviously the rain out kind of screwed some things up as far as – I don't know. I think it screwed with momentum a little bit in this series, but I digress. You got a 2-2. At least we know we're getting 1 Game 5. That's always a good thing. Honestly, this series to me was a crapshoot. I thought both teams were evenly matched. One of them has too much of an advantage in the lineup. I mean, with Bryce Harper, I guess you give the Nationals a slight edge. Starting pitching wise, I think maybe the Nationals have the edge a little bit, but with injuries and stuff, I don't know. I don't think anybody really has a true edge. I think it's a very evenly matched series, and it's appropriate. It's going to a Game 5 here, but if you pushed me right now, I'd say probably I'll say the Nationals, only because they got home field, and I always think that makes a difference. I always do. But we'll see. I don't really think it makes a difference because I think whoever wins the Cubs-Giants series going to the World Series anyway. So I just think both those teams are better than either the Dodgers or the Nationals. So there's really not a whole lot in that series worth discussing. We'll see how it goes with Game 5. And again, I think I give the edge to the Nationals, especially with the home field. The Cubs and the Giants was a series that I think in a lot of ways, you had that great Game 1, that pitching matchup with Cueto and Lester. And speaking of big game pitchers, John Lester, everybody, that's an ace. That's an ace. That's the Red Sox, wish they still had him. But John Lester, Cueto pitched a hell of a game. You get the home run late in the game by Javi Baez, who is an underrated player. He's cut down his strikeouts. He's turning into quite the fine player. Big late home run. Cubs win Game 1. Game 2, not so close. Cubs win convincingly. Now, here's the thing about this series. You're going back. See, this is the thing. Cubs won both their home games, so they protected home field. You're going back to San Francisco, but you're going back to San Francisco where Madison Bumgarner's pitching, and you're going against a team with the experience of the Giants. It's an even year. We all know what that means for the Giants, and they don't panic. They are what the Yankees were in the late 90s, early 2000s. They do not panic, and they did not panic. And we've seen them come back from a 2-0 deficit. They did a couple years ago against the Reds. Now, I know the Cubs are much better than that Reds team was, but still, they've done it, and they know they can do it, and they got Bumgarner in their back pocket. And even though Bumgarner did not pitch particularly well, he gave up a home run to Jake Arrieta, of all people, who's not a bad hitter as a pitcher, but still, he did not pitch as good, and that was maybe the biggest shock of these playoffs so far. Nonetheless, he kept them in it and allowed them to make the late run that they did to end up eventually winning the game in 13 innings. How big has Gillespie been for the Giants? It's been huge in these playoffs for them. Bryant with the home run to tie it in the ninth to get into extra innings. I mean, it was a great game last night. It's probably the best game of the playoffs so far, that game. But again, now it's 2-1. Now, you all remember what I mentioned last week about this series. If I'm the Cubs, I know you have home field. I know if you lose tonight, you go back to Chicago. You got John Lester on the mound. That's a huge plus. I get it. I do. I get it. But if you win tonight, you get to keep your pitching in order. Okay? You probably could still – you might be able to still do that relatively for the most part anyway. But anyway. But you guarantee to keep your pitching in order, number one. And number two, what you do is you avoid Madison Bumgarner. Now, Madison Bumgarner probably would not start anyway. I don't think he would. But he would at least be out of the bullpen. And we've seen that. We've seen how much of an impact that can have. If you want to avoid Madison Bumgarner altogether, I know he didn't have the best Game 3, but that doesn't matter. You want to avoid him at all costs. And if you want to avoid him, do not lose this game tonight. End this series now. Do not. I understand you have home field. It doesn't matter to me. You got Bumgarner that you're looking at. You got. I don't care. End this series tonight, or you're really putting yourselves out there and putting yourself at risk. Because I would be really worried about the Cubs in the Game 5 situation. Because the Giants aren't going to be the ones worried. It's going to be the Cubs. They had a 2-0 series lead. We all know the pressure they're probably under. We all know Madison Bumgarner. There's just a lot of things there, a lot of negative things there I would not like. Win this game tonight, end it. If it was any other team but the Giants, I wouldn't be saying that. I mean, I would still say try to win it tonight. But the fact that it's the Giants, I would say get this game tonight. To me, this is a must-win tonight. Or I would be really worried about the Cubs in the Game 5 scenario. I don't care. I know John Lester's great. I would worry about it. For what it's worth tonight, I do think the Cubs will pull it out tonight. It's tied still 1-1 in the bottom of the fourth. I do think they will win tonight. I don't think there's going to be I don't think there's going to be a problem. But I do think they'll win tonight. And I don't think, and I feel pretty good about that. And I think you're going to head for a Cubs, maybe Nationals. Well, we'll see. But again, the winner of this series to me wins the NLCS, goes to the World Series. No doubt about it in my mind. Whoever wins between the Cubs and the Giants going to the World Series. No doubt. So that's how big this series is in my mind. So we'll see how it goes. Keep you up to date on the Cubs-Giants score throughout the show tonight. Obviously, like I said, the Dodgers won earlier, which means we are headed to Game 5 in that Dodgers-Nationals series. ALDS, both series are done. Toronto and Cleveland will get underway on Friday in their series. And obviously, with Boston out, David Ortiz's career has come to an end. We've talked about it ad nauseum on the show. How I don't think we need to really talk about it too much. Is how great a career David Ortiz had. It was one of the most fascinating careers that I can remember, because this is a guy that, if you go back to 2001, before he put on a Red Sox uniform, this is a guy that really was having an average career, maybe not even average. He was a 270 player, maybe 20, 25 home runs. That's all he was. He goes to the Boston Red Sox, and he all of a sudden becomes a 40-100 guy almost every year. And durable. And that's the thing, for his size and to be durable. And obviously he became a DH for the most part. And then you think about late in his career, there was a point a number of years ago where he had a pretty poor year. He came on strong at the end, but he had a pretty poor year by his standards. And a lot of people thought he was done. He lost his bat speed. It just didn't look good. And then he just reinvented himself again. And then from that point on, he was still the same David Ortiz. David Ortiz could still play at a high level. David Ortiz does not need to retire, but he wants to go out on top. And he is, despite the quick ALDS exit of the Boston Red Sox, he is doing that. He had a great career. He is a Hall of Famer. I know a lot of people think he's borderline. I think he's a Hall of Famer. And really, I think, he was blunt at times, and, sometimes he rubbed some people the wrong way at times, which I don't understand, quite frankly. But nonetheless, to me, he was the Derek Jeter of the Red Sox. He had these intangibles. He was a great leader, and he was great for the game. He was fun to have around. He, great with the home run derbies and all the young players. He was great with young players. I hope he still stays involved. I really do. He's great for the game. He's entertaining. And really, he handled himself with class. He really, truly did. So I wish him well. I think every baseball fan out there wishes him well. And it's a great career. I mean, congratulations to him. Great career. As a Yankee fan, I'm happy he's gone, because he made a career out of just hurting the Yankees. But you know what? It was fun to have him around. He reignited the Red Sox-Yankee rivalry along with Manny Ramirez and all those guys, and it was fun to have him around. He will be missed. He's great for the game. He really, really, really is. So, good for him, and we wish him well. And that's obviously was a big part of the fact that the Red Sox lost yesterday. So I want to make sure we acknowledge that. Before we move on, Mike, anything you want to contribute on the baseball talk?
Is it my turn to talk?
Mm-hmm.
What are we talking about? Baseball?
We were talking. I was talking about the playoffs. I was talking about David Ortiz's last game yesterday.
All right. Stop talking.
Sure.
David Ortiz had a legendary career. He reinvented himself as a Red Sox. Okay, career with the Twins. He reinvented himself as a Red Sox, been a staple of the team, been the cornerstone of that team. brought him world championships. On the Hall of Fame. He is all class, all entertainment. He was like baseball's version of Shaquille O'Neal. If Shaquille O'Neal had a heavy Spanish accent, a foot shorter. So that David Ortiz, legend of the game. He couldn't get Boston, but that's okay, because when you help end the drought, anyway. Of course, that Boston team had a Jesus-like figure on their side, Damon. But anyways, he's had a legendary career, and he has earned retirement. And in a few years, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame anyway. So, and as for the playoffs, I haven't been watching. I probably won't be watching. Although I do hold a very passing interest in the Cubs. I would like them to do well. Other than that, I was watching SmackDown clips and blowing my nose. So that should tell you about the baseball playoffs this year.
And what this one other note, I also recommend anybody that, because I know a lot of people did not see, because obviously they knew once you saw Cleveland go up like that, you pretty much knew that the series was over. Obviously, it's the last. I mean, they were up 2-1. But a lot of people might not have seen the ending of Ortiz saying goodbye to the fans. There's videos. Any fan of baseball or him, I would say watch it, because they were really good. It was really something to see. It was a nice moment. He was in tears. It was a big. I mean, look, I know a lot of people that weren't even Yankee fans watched when Jeter, Rivera, and all of them retired, and it's we're seeing it across all the sports. A lot of prominent figures retiring. It happened in the NBA quite a few times, and now in baseball, it's happening. We're heading into a different era, and the star power is not exactly what it was across the way here. So, it's interesting to see that. So, I would highly recommend, if anybody hasn't seen those videos, I'd say check them out, because they were really, really cool moments to watch, and really in sports history, really. All right, so we move on from baseball to, as I said, there's a little Kevin. Well, I won't say little. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but if you watch certain things, you might have noticed what I was talking about. Kevin Durant has made some interesting comments, and that was the source of a lot of discussion today amongst many people. As far as obviously he's been under fire all summer because of the way free agency, and what happened with the Oklahoma City Thunder, and then he goes to Oklahoma City Warriors and knocked them out of the playoffs, and a lot of people felt like Oklahoma City choked, most notably Kevin Durant in that series. And if you looked at his performance, in a lot of ways you can make that argument. So obviously he's been under the microscope anyway, but now he's made some comments that have gotten some more feathers ruffled, and should make for some interesting drama this season. So basically, here's the deal, okay? It's an interesting quote from Durant on watching the Warriors in Game 7 of the Finals, and whether he would have come to the Warriors if they won. So basically what he says, I'm trying to find the exact quote because I'm not noticing it. Hang on a second here.
The quote was, and I quote, I found it. I saw it earlier. I'm going to paraphrase it. He was begging his agent to go after the Warriors. So he's like, in a good way, I was kind of hoping they'd lose.
Right. Okay, so that's the thing that's gotten a lot of people's attention. Now, look, obviously, there's a lot of layers to this, and I've seen a lot of different layers kind of discussed today. It is a bothersome quote, and it's a bothersome quote because basically it implies that he already had decided that he wasn't going to go back to Oklahoma City, which goes against everything many of us, including myself, was hearing at the time. And it implies that, just the idea that you're hoping for a team to lose because you think they'd be desperate enough to come to you. It has a very weird vibe about it. It's a very weird vibe. And here's the thing about Durant. And this is the thing that I think is kind of weird about the situation. If you watch his performance in the Western Conference Finals, when Oklahoma City basically had that series won, they had that series won. And he disappears. Has a very bad Game 6 performance. And then Game 7 was pretty mediocre as well. And then, you sit there and now you got this quote from him saying that you basically was kind of happy that the Warriors lost. And in his mind, because then he knew that they'd probably come to him. Because they would feel like they needed him. Here's my point. And I like Kevin Durant. I'm a big Kevin Durant fan. I always have been, although the last couple of months I'm kind of getting some. I'm not really in love with some of the things he's been saying and doing, but even as a Kevin Durant fan, I'm sitting here thinking, if I'm the Warriors, why would you come to him after seeing what he did in the playoffs? See, because here's the thing. Yes, the Oklahoma City Thunder went to the NBA Finals 1 year, but they got swept. The Warriors have had no problem getting deep into the playoffs and getting into the Western Conference Finals. When it comes to climbing over that big monster hurdle, they haven't done it. Golden State has done it without Kevin Durant. With the team that they already have. So in my mind, the Warriors did not need to get desperate and go to Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant needed to be desperate and go to the Golden State Warriors, because what we're seeing from Kevin Durant, and this has been a problem with me for him his whole career, is that he lacks the killer instinct. For everybody that criticized LeBron James, he went to Miami because he couldn't win a championship on his own. That's true at the time he did, but he's done it on his own now. And don't say, well, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. No, LeBron James led that team. He got help from Kyrie Irving. You're going to need some help. Let's be honest here. You do need help. You can't just go on your own. Even Jordan had Pippen, although Jordan's best player in the history of the game. But you do have to, even he had to have some help. But we all criticize LeBron. Kevin Durant is worse than LeBron is at this point. Because the one thing you could say about LeBron is that we've seen him get his team to the finals multiple times really on his own. We've only seen Durant do that once. And if you think about it, would Durant have done that without Westbrook? Because 2 out of the 3 years that two of the years that LeBron James got to the finals, he did not have a Russell Westbrook with him. And I hate to defend LeBron, but it's true. He didn't have a player like Russell Westbrook with him, or Serge Ibaka, or I could go on and on and on. Kevin Durant has had far better teams that he's played on than LeBron James has had in his career, outside of obviously the big teams in Miami and then obviously the current Cleveland team. He's had far better teams, and they crap the bed in the finals or in the playoffs. So again, to me, the desperation was on Kevin Durant's side, or at least it should have been. Him acting like because they lost, they're going to be desperate enough to go to him. To me, that's bogus. I mean, that's being delusional. Forget about ruffling feathers. That's delusional. That's like, I mean, all due respect to Kevin, Kevin Durant should be in a position where any team should come to him. Why they would now at this point, despite, I mean, yes, he is the most talented players in the game. But at this point, I wouldn't be like, if I'm the Warriors, I wouldn't be running to him. Say, we did it. We've done it before without you. Why do we need to be desperate enough to beg you to come here? Sure, we'd like to have you, but come on now. Come on now. I mean, this comment is just weird. I mean, Kevin, I don't even know what Kevin Durant's mindset is. I mean, is this as bad as Dwight Howard? No, it's not. It's not really, but I do not like the way this has gone down. He has a right to go wherever he wants to go, but it's coming off like, he's trying to sell desperation on his part as desperation on the Warriors' part, and I don't think that's the case. I really don't. I mean, it's just it's a weird vibe you get from this whole situation. It really is. Mike, what are your thoughts on this Durant nonsense?
I don't have strong opinions on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, well, my head's been elsewhere lately. But I just found the quote. I mean, it's a weird quote. Mm-hmm. And I know on Twitter briefly that apparently Stephen A. Smith had a Stephen A. Smith moment talking about Kevin Durant. That's not surprising one bit. Kevin Durant also said, look, I'm going to be criticized for whatever I do or say now, so I'm just going to speak my mind.
Fair point.
Look, I can't fault him speaking his mind. And I'm pretty sure he came to this conclusion during the finals. I'm pretty sure he didn't intentionally go out and give up Game 6 and 7 Western Conference semifinals. I'm fairly certain of that. What I think happened was Russell Westbrook forgot how to be a point guard. Lost Kevin Durant. So do I blame Kevin Durant? Yes, Kevin Durant doesn't really have that. But help when he is there calling for the ball. Times, I remember those games. I remember watching those games. There were times when Kevin Durant was wide open calling for the ball. Westbrook just chucked it up. Because the thing is, Russell Westbrook's option on the floor is always Russell Westbrook. So I don't blame Kevin Durant for being frustrated. Is it a strange thing to say that the Warriors to lose so they'd be interested in you?
Yeah.
Yes. Because I think two things are fundamentally wrong. Even if the Warriors had won, in Kevin Durant. And number two, why are you rooting for them to lose in the first place? So they'd have more of a reason to go get you? Kevin Durant really is the most natural scorer in the NBA. He makes whatever team he's on better. But with the Warriors, he doesn't have to have that killer instinct. He'll just kind of fit in the system and do his thing. We've mentioned this before. He fills the Warriors needed filling. Durant has the ability to go to the basket and doesn't just settle for. He has that ability. He has that talent, and he's damn near unstoppable. For Kevin Durant, it's a win-win for him.
Right.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him for speaking his mind and being honest about it, because that's what it was. Hope the Warriors would be more interested in him now that they lost. Didn't happen. That's what happened. I don't, because my head's not in it. And I didn't see what the problem was too much. I understand that it's a dumb thing to say. At the end, it was just a guy speaking his mind out there. It's not like Draymond Green. Okay. On the Nick Young scale, speaking verbal diarrhea, low. The Nick Young scale goes to from 1 to opens a stupid mouth.
That's one hell of a scale.
So on the Nick Young scale, verbal diarrhea. Oh, it's just honesty.
All right.
It's just him speaking his mind, and I don't fault him for that.
Mm-hmm.
I understand why he would say it. That could be just, if I never knew that, I'd be fine. I would just go along with the narrative like Golden State offered him something Oklahoma City didn't. A point guard willing to pass the ball. And look, people say it's like they have to question his character and his drive to win. I understand that now that he said that. It's like, well, what'll happen if Golden State doesn't win with you?
Right.
Well, here's what'll happen. Have a point guard willing to pass the ball. That's it. Golden State has a system. Golden State's going to get there. Competitor every year, like Miami was. Super team. And that's more than Oklahoma City could offer, because Oklahoma City was going to lowball Kevin Durant anyways. In the long term, they had more value in Russell Westbrook anyway. Always going to lowball Durant. Durant wanted out anyway. It kind of logically, it's like, yeah, it was a stupid thing to say. Yeah, people are going to question why you said it, and now they're going to question your resolve. But in the end, he was speaking his mind, and now and for him, he's in a better situation.
Right.
He's in a better situation to be the guy that's Steph Curry. Their gaping need. One weakness on offense was that they didn't have anybody who could really go to the basket every possession. They had to rely on. Now they have, on paper at least, the best offense in the system. They got the Splash Brothers. They got Klay Thompson, and they got Steph Curry, who can make threes all day. Durant, who is a threat from literally anywhere on the floor, and is basket. They have excellent bigs. They have They have great coaching. They're literally set. They should route everybody. So I don't fault him for going there. I've never faulted him for going there.
Right.
And he didn't make as much of a spectacle out of it as LeBron did.
Or Dwight, really.
Or even Dwight. And who can blame a power forward running a point guard ball? So if you think about it in those terms, Kevin Durant.
I will say this too, and you mentioned the point that, well, what happens if he doesn't win with the Warriors, right? He only signed for 2 years.
Yeah, you
So
got two chances.
if it doesn't work out, I mean, and let's be honest here, they're going to at least get to if they all stay healthy, they're going to at least get to the Western Conference Finals. So both years they should. But here's the thing: if it doesn't work out, if he doesn't win, he goes someplace else. I mean that's I mean what LeBron did. I mean, look, I know LeBron went to Miami and he did win. But he still went back. There's my opinion, and we'll see how wrong I am here. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't know. I know Durant's heart was in Oklahoma City. I do not think for a minute that Kevin Durant really wanted to leave Oklahoma City. I think he gave them every chance to keep him. I just think by the time he got to by the time we got late into the playoffs, he knew. And we talked about it on the show. The writing was on the wall that they weren't going to go out of their way. They just weren't. They didn't want to go through the trouble. They built themselves into a competitive team again that could win a championship, and they were going to blow it all up again. So Kevin Durant was not going to go for that, and that was the end of it. But here's the thing: let's say Kevin Durant wins at least one title in his 2 years with Golden State, who's to say he doesn't pull LeBron and go back? Knowing full well that he he can go back and be a conquering hero if he pulls it off. Sometimes and we talked about this with LeBron. Sometimes it's as simple as you go somewhere else, maybe you get some help, and look, does it hurt your legacy a little bit? It does. But then you get that first one out of the way. Once you get that first one out of the way, you don't feel the pressure the same way. I mean, you still feel pressure, but you do not feel it the same way. It's not the same. I think we saw it with LeBron. Once he won that first title, it looked like it got easier for him. And I think the same thing maybe would happen for Durant. I don't know. But, the fact that he signed for 2 years, if it ends up being a mistake, he can correct it and go on an apology tour. We'll see. We'll see. All right. So we talked about that. That's all the sports stuff we wanted to do, NBA, and the little NBA story here, and then obviously the baseball playoffs. It is now 3-2 Giants over the Cubs right now as we head to the bottom of the fifth. So Giants up 3-2 on the Cubs as we head to the bottom of the fifth in that big monumental Game 4 of the National League Division Series, which the Cubs lead 2-1. The Giants win, then you are headed for Game 5 in Chicago, which will be interesting, to say the least, as I mentioned earlier. So I'll keep you up to date on that for the time that we're on the air. We now move from the sports realm to the wrestling realm as we take a look at the last couple days in WWE, which featured a SmackDown exclusive pay-per-view and No Mercy on Sunday, which we somewhat previewed. I previewed by myself, but we did a little overview on Thursday previewing it. And obviously we had Monday Night Raw last night. First off, as we'll talk about, we'll look at No Mercy on Sunday, which I was excited about it. I was actually more excited about No Mercy than I was about Backlash, because I felt like a lot of the matches at Backlash, aside from maybe the Women's Championship, I felt like I knew what was going to happen in those matches. And on this pay-per-view, I had a little bit more. Obviously, I felt like AJ Styles would retain, and obviously I felt like Becky would retain. But I thought there was a little bit more unpredictability in the card, especially what I felt like was the biggest match, the Miz Ziggler match. Which has been a fascinating angle, especially with Dolph retiring, and obviously a lot of stuff had been leaking, making you think that he might be on the way out, and it was just fascinating. And then, so really there was a lot going on in this pay-per-view going in, and there was a lot of excitement about it. And I know for a lot of people, SmackDown's been the better brand, had the better pay-per-views. I felt like I felt like Clash of Champions was a smidge better than Backlash. That's me personally. So I went into this thinking, well, I bet you No Mercy would probably end up being better than Hell in a Cell. Boy, I don't know what's going to happen at Hell in a Cell in a couple weeks. I don't think it could do worse than No Mercy. And this is one of those rare pay-per-views that, in my mind, it wasn't so much that the matches were bad. I thought collectively the matches were pretty good. I just don't understand. I think they took so much drama out of the show. I understand why they put the World Heavyweight Championship match first. I know the debate, football. I understand that, and I don't even really mind that too much. But the minute you committed to that plan, the Intercontinental Championship match should have been the main event. I do not. I mean, unless that match is Undertaker Brock Lesnar, in no way, shape, or form should a feud like a Randy Orton or Bray Wyatt be the main event of any show. It shouldn't. I never liked it when Cena main evented with John Laurinaitis or Cena main evented with Big Show and there was no title on his waist. But at least with Cena was the face of the company. How that match main evented, I don't know. And if you think Luke Harper was a big enough swerve to end that night on, I don't know. You had an angle, a retirement angle, and with Dolph Ziggler, you had a chance to elevate the Intercontinental title, which Miz has done a great job of doing on his own. You had a monumental chance here, and you blow it. I don't really argue too much with the idea of putting the World Heavyweight Championship match first, but then the Intercontinental title match should be main event. That's your second next title. Put it on the main event. Ziggler brought it up on Talking Smack. You could tell Daniel Bryan agreed. You could even tell Shane agreed. And why they did it, I don't know. Maybe because it's just Randy Orton. No, I don't have any issues with the results of the pay-per-view. The right people, I thought, won. I was very glad that Slater and Rhino retained because I thought for sure they were going to lose. That's all you've been hearing. I'm glad they retained because it gives them some value to their reign and also to the new tag titles. Obviously, everybody feels bad about Becky Lynch being injured. Can't do anything about that. I thought they could have done a better job with the filler match. I mean, I expected it to be Naomi, Alexa Bliss, but I thought really Alexa Bliss should have won. Unless they're just trying to extend this stuff, whatever their plans are, further by including Naomi in them so that, they don't have to have Alexa eat a pin or something because I feel like they value Alexa. So, I mean, maybe that's part of it. I don't know, but I didn't really like what they did there. That's probably my only criticism as far as booking goes. Let's see what else. The Nikki Carmella match I thought was fine. I like what they've been doing with that feud. The World Heavyweight Championship match was great. I don't know if I like AJ using a chair to end the match. I mean, I guess it's their way because AJ gets cheered. I guess it's their way of trying to keep getting some heel heat, but it's not going to work. I kind of like the way they had Cena and Ambrose basically get AJ to tap out only to continue the match. I kind of like that. I thought that worked out well. I thought that match was fine. And then Cena getting the pin to get him out of the feud. I thought that worked out fine. AJ Styles now is up three on Cena, which is great for him. But yeah, I thought that match was fine. The only thing I question maybe is the chair, but again, I think that was more an issue of trying to get him heel heat because he can't get any. I think the only other criticism I would say in that match is I felt like Ambrose kind of fell off a little bit again in that match. I thought Ambrose was okay when he worked with AJ. But I felt like he was off with Cena. I don't know what that's about, but AJ was a shining star in that match. He was brilliant in that match. Orton Wyatt was wrongfully ended the night. It was okay. Here's the problem. I looked forward to this feud because I knew that Bray could get a win. Okay, because Randy Orton will put guys over. I looked forward to this feud because I wanted Bray to go over somebody credible. I wasn't looking forward to this feud for the matches. I thought they were going to be boring as hell, and they were. And they really were. Bray is very much an acquired taste. He will bore you out of your mind in the ring if he's not in the ring with the right opponent. Same thing with Randy Orton. They have opponents for some. There are opponents out there for both of them that you stick them in the ring with them, and it's an exciting match. And then there's opponents that these two have that if you put them in the ring with them, it's boring as all hell. And this was a situation where it was boring as all hell, but it had the right result. Very predictable. As soon as you knew Luke Harper was back, you knew that was going to happen. it was a cool moment, but it's not a main event cool moment. It should have been like where Dolph Ziggler and Miz wrestled is where Orton Wyatt should have been. That's where it should have been, and Orton and Miz and Ziggler should have been the main event. But I'm glad that Bray got the win, and I mean, it was cool for what it was, even if not predictable. And so, it is what it is. I mean, the pre-show matches were fine. You had some good things. Obviously, to me, I think this pay-per-view will be remembered for the Miz Ziggler match, which should have main evented. They did everything they could with that match. And what I like about it is very much like the Sasha Charlotte matches have done, is they incorporate aspects of their story into the match. You got from the perfume spraying to the Spirit Squad to, the use of the ropes. So, I mean, everything you could think of was included. Then you get, Miz gets left alone and Ziggler pins him. I mean, it really was. And then bringing all the focus on Ziggler's feudal career and how he's failed so many times and been embarrassed so many times. They brought everything into it. It was a great match. It was a great storytelling match. Both these guys put on a show. It should have been the main event. It wasn't. And really, that's the biggest criticism you can make of No Mercy was, yeah, okay, World Heavyweight Championship match is first. All right, fine. The Intercontinental title match, main events the show. Orton Wyatt goes to the middle of the card. And I think that actually does help the show. It was the biggest – it was one of the biggest wins of Ziggler's career as a retirement angle. You have nothing bigger than – Orton Bray Wyatt is not bigger than that. Sorry, it's not. So that was a mistake. And you know what? Again, I feel like if you change that match order, it does help the show a lot. That would still have been kind of lackluster, maybe, but I think it would have helped. So Mike came back just in time to give his thoughts on No Mercy. Mike, what are your thoughts on No Mercy?
Oh, no.
No.
All right, No Mercy. Now, a reference to earlier, if you could stay up long enough for the show. Almost didn't make it up. I almost didn't stay up long enough to make it to the show. I'm going to be honest with you. Rough. I'm just pulling up the card because I honestly did not remember the card.
That says a lot.
Here's the thing. I agree that if you're going to start with the world title match, the Intercontinental Championship match had to be the main event. And to be honest with you, it had the most storyline. It had everything. It had emotion. That was what should have main evented, and you ran the gauntlet with that match. You had the Spirit Squad, you had Maurice, and then even though it's like Dolph kind of won, and it felt fluky still, but it was still the face overcoming all the odds. So it was the best match of the show. Miz and Ziggler are on fire, and they're making the Intercontinental Championship mean something more now. Interesting to see where they go from here.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think you could have gotten more mileage out of the Miz retaining. So I kind of want to see where they go with the Miz. If they're going to keep him here for a little bit, or if they're going to project him right up the card. I hope they do something, because the Miz has been on fire since the brand split. Naomi beat Alexa Bliss. This was challenging Becky Lynch for the title. Becky Lynch had to have surgery, so she wasn't able to make it to the show. So you had Naomi beat the number one contender to the Divas title. The Women's Championship. I don't understand that. Triple threat, I guess. Why not? Ho, 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 ho. Becky's still winning. Baron Corbin beat Swagger. Hey, remember when Swagger was a big deal? Me neither. Nikki Bella defeated Carmella. could have done something really big here if they had Carmella beat Nikki. It was a wasted opportunity. And Cena, AJ pinned Cena. If I were here for that prediction show, that's exactly how I would have had that.
Yeah.
AJ pinning Cena. It's nothing out of the ordinary. It was a good match. I saw that it was a good match. I was very happy Slater and Rhino retained. The match was fine. Fine. I don't care for the Usos. Something against them. I don't care for the work. Slater and Rhino have been on fire. They have been doing great work. Their tag dynamic is really, really something special at the moment. And you had to have the champs kind of retain one more time, right? Very, very happy they had Slater and Rhino kind of retain here. But I think they want Rhino to have the tag championship when he kind of wrapped in Michigan. It's kind of funny like that. And that brings us to Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton. Match was rough. It should not have main evented. The right guy won, though. The problem is the right guy won dirty. Have won. Bray Wyatt needs wins. Clean wins. Luke Harper just kind of come back and then Bray Wyatt give Randy's sister Abigail wins. That.
Right.
Yay, Luke Harper's back. It's somebody for Randy to RKO for another 2 months. But the thing is, Bray Wyatt should have beaten Randy Orton clean.
Great.
Have Luke Harper return or something. I don't know. It shouldn't have main evented. It should have been Miz versus Ziggler. That was the match of the night. This was an off for SmackDown. You're going to have off nights running all these pay-per-views.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have off nights.
Yeah. Right.
So this was an off night.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Not for Miz and Ziggler, though.
I will say this much: if this Bray Wyatt Orton feud goes the way of AJ Styles and Cena, where the heel gets the screw job win first, and then goes over clean later, I can deal with it. But if it's just the only win Bray Wyatt gets, then it's not going to be beneficial at all. So, all right. So we talked about No Mercy. Last night, not a whole lot. Obviously, the biggest things you take away from Raw is you take away from the fact that they did have Rollins beat Jericho, which keeps him out of the match for now. I tend to think Jericho's still going to be involved in that match in some way, whether it's a special guest referee or he'll find some way into it. I still think that's it. I mean, they're just trying to – they really don't – they have to break this up and fill up the next couple weeks. So, they couldn't just have everything get finished up last night. So they have 2 more weeks to kind of build it up. So, they're just going to kind of drag this out a little bit. But I expect Jericho to be involved in that match, which is now going to be in the cell. That was not supposed to happen if you read a lot of the dirt sheets. That was a late addition, putting that match in the cell, Owens and Rollins. So we'll see what factored into that. Sometimes you can tell by the match why it factored in, but we'll see. So we have that. You had the mixed tag with Reigns, Rusev, Charlotte, and Sasha. They had a real fun start to the night, which was different. It was a nice little thing to kind of build both matches up. Both those matches, of course, will be in the cell. Charlotte and Sasha will be in the first ever Women's Championship Hell in a Cell match. That should be interesting. I think most people thought that was what's going to happen. It is. I would not be the least bit surprised if that main event's the show because they're trying to make a statement here, I think. So we'll see if that happens. Other than that, obviously they put in Sheamus and Cesaro in a match with the New Day at the pay-per-view. You also had the cruiserweights, T.J. Perkins and Brian Kendrick. That feud escalated. There wasn't a whole lot of big stuff. Obviously, the Universal title stuff was big. Other than that, really, it was Paul Heyman, who was obviously there to promote the video game release, but dropped the bombshell that Brock Lesnar was opening a challenge to Bill Goldberg, which, we've been talking about the Goldberg possible return, and now it looks like it's going to happen. Goldberg will probably come out next week, accept the challenge, and then you start your build to Survivor Series, and it looks like it's going to happen there, which is interesting. You think it happened at Mania, but I think that was the biggest takeaway is that, and that you're going to get that big match. And I don't know if I like the way that they chose to do this. I mean, I really could care less about the Goldberg Lesnar thing, but it is going to be a spectacle. It is a match that's going to draw. I don't know if the way they decided to build it was the best way. I mean, I think because the Goldberg rumors have been around for so long at this point, maybe they felt like it was going to be anticlimactic anyway. But did they really have to spoil every single return? Like, why couldn't they do what they did with Sting, where Goldberg just shows up and surprised the hell out of everybody? Like, that was a moment. Like, that's the kind of moment you want. Now, I mean, to have him go on ESPN, he's been doing all these interviews, and he goes on ESPN last week and kind of teases it, but doesn't come out and say it. And you have Heyman come out and do his thing last night, and you're going to have Goldberg come out. I mean, it just seems very, anticlimactic and drawn out. Why not just have him show up and appear, have a shocking moment, and then explain why he's back, and he's calling out Brock Lesnar and whatever, and you go from there. I mean, the way that they're doing it has nothing compelling about it. But whatever, it's going to happen. It's going to probably happen at Survivor Series. It is what it is. So I think that's the biggest takeaway. What you saw with the Universal title and then the Goldberg stuff with Lesnar. Mike, you have any thoughts on Raw last night?
See, I didn't get a chance. I only saw the last hour. Anything involving Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho is automatically gold. Sheamus and Cesaro, New Day, they were more entertaining. That's not surprising. Paul Heyman cut a hell of a promo. I think, I agree with you. They probably shouldn't have announced that Goldberg is he's coming. He's coming back, but they want to pop a rating. That's the whole reason. They want to pop a rating. They want to promote it. So they want to have a good number against the NFL, and I think next week's the last debate, so against the next debate too. So they want to pop a rating, and I understand that. But other than that, I feel like Rollins should not have pinned Jericho. Should have gone over there but it is what it is. Anything involving Owens and Jericho is gold. Benefits from being in the angle. Really does.
Right.
The last hour of Raw was fine. Seen any other parts of Raw yet, so.
All right. Well, it wasn't a huge night for happenings anyway. Okay, and the last thing we have here, and this is something that obviously the bulk of it happened last week, and that is this whole thing with WWE and TNA, which is very confusing. Obviously, we had talked about the rumors that WWE might purchase TNA, mostly for the library, maybe get a couple of talents and then just let it go. They had no interest in keeping it going. Well, last week, the news was that WWE was purchasing the TNA library, video library, so they can put it on, obviously, the network and on demand. They can show things like from AJ Styles' career, Samoa Joe, etc. And so they'd get the library, and then Billy Corgan would purchase the brand, rebrand it, change the name. TNA would be really no more, but it'd be rebranded, basically. That was going to be what the deal was. And it looks like that is what it will be. Now, if you've been following some more of the articles the last couple of days, there is talk that WWE is looking to add Ring of Honor and TNA to the WWE Network lineup, which is an interesting thing, especially given its competition. But, a lot of people feel as though WWE is at the point where they don't think they have any competition, and it doesn't matter to them. And they're just looking to add more subscribers and bring more people in. And this is not just the library. Dave Meltzer's reporting this too. I guess WWE is discussing a tier system. Potentially 4 different tiers. One tier of interest is the $14.99 per month tier, which mentions independent wrestling content. And that has many people speculate, and that has people saying WWE's in talks with Ring of Honor about jumping on board. And then also they might even bring TNA on board, and that will be how they'll market it. Like, okay, for $15, you get access to ROH, TNA, and you bring these other wrestling brands in. And that's obviously that's something that a lot of people have felt has been coming, that ultimately once WWE got the network going and it was a success, that they were going to go to a tier system and then offer you different levels of service. So, if you pay the $15, you get more things. You pay, $12, you get more, it's kind of like in between, that kind of thing. But this is just speculation. It's not a thing, but Dave Meltzer is reporting it. A couple other dirt sheets are reporting it, that this is something that's in discussion, that, they might go out and get like a brand like ROH, TNA, or both, add them to the network, and then make them exclusive content. And then for, extra $4 or $5 a month, if you're paying $9.99, you can get access to ROH and TNA on the WWE network, not just the video libraries, but I guess new content, which is very interesting, because it basically implies that while you're not buying these companies, you're partnering with them. And I think if you had said this 4 or 5 years ago, you would never thought you'd see today. But that is something that looks like it could be a possibility. So there's a lot here. A lot of it has to be. I think the only thing we can say with certainty right now is that WWE will have the TNA library. It looks like Corden has taken over TNA. They will probably rebrand it. Unless if they do go, if WWE does air TNA on the network, then maybe they won't. Maybe they'll be content to keep the name. I don't know. But I think right now it's clear that Corden will run TNA. Whether it stays TNA or gets rebranded, we'll see. And then WWE will just have the library, and if this other stuff happens, who knows? But it's definitely an interesting situation, and will it benefit ROH and TNA in the long run? I don't know. Will they get lost in the shuffle a little bit, even more so than they already are? I don't know. Doesn't really hurt WWE that much, I don't think. But Mike, you got anything to add?
This is. Not too much, because this is all news to me. Am I surprised that WWE wants to add Ring of Honor? No. Because Ring of Honor, in a way, has almost plateaued a little bit. There hasn't really been too much upwards momentum Dean era. According to me, anyway, even though they had a really, really nice title reign with Jay Lethal.
Mm-hmm.
Jay Lethal had a really long, very, very well done title reign. Michael Elgin had a very short run. Jay Briscoe being the two-time champion has really added nothing to the title. A very solid reign with the belt. And Adam Cole is okay. He's doing okay with it, but it's their biggest shows right now. It's not the end of the year show in Hammerstein when New Japan comes over. and Kazuchika Okada is front and center on their poster. Okada, who's always front and center on the poster, and don't get me wrong, Kazuchika Okada, the biggest star in Japan right now, biggest wrestling star in Japan right now, hands down. So, of course, New Japan would want their guy kind of front and center. Excuse me, that was my notification. They should have Jay Lethal kind of right there sharing the thing. They should have Adam Cole, Hogan, or somebody. Just be Okada and his stablemate Ishii, who is a big badass dude, by the way. He'll just beat you up, guys. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, and I'm just using that as an example,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like gospel. By the way, it's an example. I feel like Ring of Honor is kind of plateaued a little bit. Doesn't mean they don't have great talent. Honest to God, Dalton Castle, most interesting character they've had in forever. And they don't even treat him seriously. And Castle has gone and got this gimmick that he's got, which is unbelievably hilarious. He's gotten it over. And why isn't this guy TV champion right now? I understand that. You got somebody like Castle, and he's doing great work, and you're not rewarding that. Adam Cole, you re-signed Adam Cole. That's great. On him, but what are you doing with him? What's he doing that's special? What is he doing that's different? Jay Lethal had a great run. That had any momentum, any forward momentum with the belt was Kevin Steen. Kevin Owens. His last forward momentum with the title. But since then, it's like,
yeah,
what's new? What's being done? That's the thing. And with TNA's been a mess. A long time, and excuse me, and you finally feel like they're going forward a new direction, but there's still a bunch of WWE cast-offs. Boy, Bobby Lashley, Ethan Carter III. These guys have held the title. I feel like, and they make confusing decisions now. Ethan Carter III. Essentially a TNA grown star. Essentially, I mean, he was Derek Bateman for a while, but never really got bored. So he really was able to show his stuff in TNA as Ethan Carter III. Over, and he was great. Put the title on him at Bound for Glory. What the biggest pay-per-view of the year. Only to have Bobby Lashley lose the title to Eddie Edwards. Eddie Edwards is fine. This is great. Eddie Edwards won the TNA World Championship on Impact, winning it at Bound for Glory.
Right.
And by the way, Eddie Edwards lost the TNA Grand Championship to Aaron Rex, known as Damian Sandow. TNA has been coasting essentially off the these nonsense. Broken Matt Hardy's nonsense and Brother Nero. they had another. Once they did the final deletion, they had to keep going. Then they had delete or decay. The most recent one was whatever they called it. It was another like cinematic match interspliced with a live action match. They really tried something new. It's kind of stupid, I think, but the deletion was like the room of wrestling matches. It was Tommy Wiseau's The Room of wrestling matches. And for whatever reason, it worked. Whatever. So you got another 3 like that. Right now, the Hardys champions, or Broken Matt Hardy and Brother Nero, are your tag champions. Okay. Fine. I would have done that too, I guess. Really have any momentum moving forward with it.
True.
So why not have the Decay made up of Crazy Steve and Abyss, who's WWE a long time ago. It's the hottest act you have going. Why not? Broken Matt, who, as everybody has noted, is finally his brother. There are no words, but whatever. So here we are, Broken Matt. TNA's kind of like I don't want to say they're in a rut, better than they've been, but the stupid decision making still there.
Right.
But let me paraphrase that. I'm not saying that putting the titles on the Hardys was a stupid decision. Too, it made sense. I'm saying that Ethan Carter III lose at Bound for Glory and having Bobby Lashley drop the title at the very next day. Act.
Yeah. Was
not even who lost the title match the night before. I don't understand that reasoning. But it's just different working. Because here's the thing. In 30 days, the title back.
Yeah.
Does not need the title anymore. So whatever. Where Billy's going to get it, but eventually WWE is going to own it. It's going to happen.
You know, whatever happens, it's fascinating. You know, it seems like it's kind of going back and forth. I kind of think we're at the point, based on the way this is all kind of going down. I kind of think we're at the point where WWE went into this just going for the library, and then saw an opportunity to take the whole thing, but then, you know, maybe TNA backed off, or I don't know. And then WWE's like, okay, we'll just take the library. But then they're like, oh, you know what? What if we put it on the network, ROH, and where we can do this tier system? And, you know, it's on the network, but we don't really own it. But, you know, we get money from it, profit from it, whatever. And, you know, I think they're kind of like, they're seeing how far they can take it, what the limits to this can be. And they're kind of changing their plan as they go. And then whenever TNA indicates how far they're willing to go, then and firmly indicates how far they're willing to go, then I think they'll be like, okay, this is what we'll settle and we'll go with it. I think that's generally, I think they're kind of like throwing things out there and seeing what sticks and seeing what they'll grab onto and what they'll take. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of what it is. Because I don't think they thought at the beginning of this that they had a chance, because at the beginning of it, they were told that TNA politely declined. And then all of a sudden, you go into that weekend, the weekend at Bound for Glory, and everybody's like, oh, you know what? It's looking like they'll buy the whole damn thing. So it's been kind of going back and forth, but we'll see. We'll see what happens as this saga continues here. So real quick score update here before we start to wind down. Cubs, Giants, I should say, lead the Cubs 5-2, bottom of the sixth. Again, Cubs lead that series 2-1. If the Giants can hold on here, the Giants and Cubs will be tied at 2 games apiece going to a Game 5. Again, as I said earlier, you do not like that idea, despite the fact John Lester will be on the mound for the Cubs more than likely, and you'll be playing that game at home if you're a Cubs fan. You still don't like it because you got Bumgarner there, and with the Giants, I just don't know if you like that proposition. So, but again, 5-2 Giants, bottom of the sixth in NLDS Game 4. That game on Fox Sports 1 right now, so if you're interested, check that out. All right, we are going to wind down. As always, show is over. It does not mean you have to stop interacting and contributing. Continue to have your voice heard and answer your questions or reactions, questions about the show, scheduling the show, reactions, comments or opinions on things we said, things we talked about, any topic ideas or breaking news items from sports, entertainment, or wrestling you want to make sure we cover. Any of these things you can do by email, Facebook, and Twitter. You can email us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Remember, we have you can either create your hashtag or use one of the ones we provide for you. You can use hashtag itspotlight411. We're not using hashtag ITS5 because that 50 years over now, so we don't have to worry about that. But you can create your own hashtag, as I said, as long as it's not disrespectful or insulting. So if you're mentioning something about football, you might use hashtag ITSFootball. You all know the drill. So as long as it's not disrespectful, you can create your own hashtag or just use one of the ones we just said. So whatever the case, make sure you follow us on Twitter. You can also follow us on Facebook to search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook and make sure you like our page upon finding it. We encourage you to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest information about our show, especially as it relates to scheduling. Look what happened last week. We had cancellations, delays, postponements, all that good stuff. Obviously with the football show, especially on Fridays or whatever day it ends up being on, obviously that can shift around in terms of time and such. So it's really helpful to follow us on social media to get those updates. And of course, we post opinions as well. So keep that in mind. A couple of ways in which to keep up with our show and look back at old episodes. You can do so. One way you can do so is by searching for us on Google Plus and YouTube to search for In the Spotlight 411. If you're a fan of streaming, you might want to do this. If you prefer seeing us rather than listening to us, well, you're going to listen to us anyway, but if you like to see us on screen, this might be for you. Also, if you're interested in only our more recent episodes, which is everything from the last year of our show, every episode we've done for Google Plus and YouTube, which is everything from a year ago right up until now. So if you're interested in any of those episodes from the past year, then you might be interested in checking us out on Google Plus and YouTube. So to search for In the Spotlight 411, you'll have access to every episode from the past year. So keep that in mind. Also, if you're more of a fan of audio podcasting, maybe you prefer to listen to us on the go, then you can search for us on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes, to search for In the Spotlight 411. And you'll have access to every episode we've ever done over the past 6 years now we've been doing the show. So everything for our Blog Talk Radio run, our Talk Shoe run, and everything we've done on Google Plus and YouTube in the last year transferred into audio format for you. Every episode we've ever done in audio format in order from most recent to the oldest is available to you anytime you wish. So if you're interested in those episodes, longtime fan wants to look back at old episodes or catch up on episodes, or you're a new fan and wants to listen to episodes for the first time, or just keeping up on episodes, whatever the case may be, you can do that on Podbean and iTunes to search In the Spotlight 411. So Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes, always which you can keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. So make sure you keep all that in mind. Okay, as always, I want to thank Mike for being here tonight. Thank you, Mike.
It's time for bed, and there's a creepy guy with a cat behind you.
Yes, he's got the chubby cat. Obviously, I want to thank myself for a great show and pat myself on the back. I would say Finn pat me on the back, but that'd be creepy. And of course, thank all of you for your continued support and contributions to the show. Thank you so much for watching. To those that will be watching or listening later, thank you to you as well. We appreciate it. We are done for tonight. And our next show, again, Thursday, 9 o'clock. Oh, actually, I forgot something. Our next show will be Thursday afternoon. Remember, we're doubling up on Thursday. In the Spotlight Football Blitz will be on Thursday this week, not Friday. Again, Thursday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, looking back at last week's college football and NFL action, looking ahead to this week's. That will be 2:30 p.m. Eastern time Thursday, the In the Spotlight Football Blitz. And then our Thursday night primetime show, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. We'll do our usual entertainment stuff, box office beat, TV highlights, fall TV report, entertainment news discussion, all that good stuff. And we got a little anniversary stuff coming. Might be a surprise or two. We'll see if that pans out. I got to talk to a few people and see if that can work out. That was another tease. Okay, so that's the way of the land for this week. Until Thursday, again, our next show, the In the Spotlight Football Blitz, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time Thursday. Our next primetime show, Thursday night, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, both here on Google Plus and YouTube. Keep that in mind. Until Thursday, I hope you have a great rest of your night and a great Wednesday. See you back here Thursday afternoon for the Football Blitz at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, and then Thursday night primetime at 9 o'clock Eastern time. Until then, have a good night, everybody.